Welcome to today's edition of the Anaglyph Jukebox. You never know what you'll find on the old jukebox. Let's press B31. Okay, we've got EC 3D. This presentation will require a little effort on your part. Our first two images are 2D, followed by two panels in anaglyph 3D. Next is a request that you turn your 3D glasses upside down, backwards, or however it's easiest to achieve right eye red status. If you don't, won't, or can't, you'll miss out on some very rare 3D from more than 60 years ago. Wally Wood is a giant among comic book artists, whose career spanned EC and Mad Magazine in the 1950s and independently published projects and early underground comics in the 1960s. The Spawn of Venus was a story intended for the all-sci-fi 1954 3D issue of EC Comics that was completed but not published. However, in the ultimate EC fanzine Squatrunt, Issue 5, an article titled 3D Many Levels, reprinted the separate elements for these two panels of the Wally Wood story, The Spawn of Venus. I've attempted to put those pieces together from a shapeless mass of pulsating protoplasm. Now, please turn your head or your glasses upside down to see classic 1950s artwork by Jack Davis, Johnny Craig, Bernard Krigstein, Al Feldstein, and Wally Wood in three terrifying dimensions. Joe Kubert, quote, I had an idea. I had suggested this to several people. I had talked it around a bit. The thing that gave me the whole idea originally was that I had seen several books, several magazines in Europe while I was overseas in 3 dimensions, but they were photographs, and I immediately thought this applied to comic books, if it could be done in artwork. I knew nothing of what the problems had evolved or anything else. This is an excerpt from a transcript of a secretly tape-recorded interview between Mr. Joe Kubert of American Stereographic Corporation and William M. Gaines and Albert B. Feldstein of Entertaining Comics Group, held in room 803 at 225 Lafayette Street, New York City, on August 3, 1953. EC Comics were having great success with their horror and science fiction books and wanted in on the 3D fad after they saw the Mighty Mouse comic book sales figures. EC publisher Bill Gaines owned a Stereo Realist. He would take trips to Havana, shoot rolls of film, and then project them in the EC offices on a silvered screen. So the 3D concept was something he understood well. One of his main editors, writers, and artists was Al Feldstein. Feldstein had already experimented with a 3D printing process himself. One morning he created a small diorama-like setup out of cardboard, a tree, a girl sitting on a trash can, a fence, a sidewalk, and distant trees. He shot one view with his 35mm Konica, shifted position 4 inches, and shot another. He had plates made up and had one view printed in green and the other in red on top. Feldstein reinvented the French anaglyph process originally created by color photography pioneer Louis Arthur Ducos Du Hauron in 1891. With this background, Gaines and Feldstein began researching in the patent section of the Manhattan Library. There they found a patent by Freeman H. Owens that covered making 3-dimensional images using acetate cells and shifting their positions to create depth. The patent was due to expire in 8 months. They looked up old telephone directories and discovered Freeman Owens alive and well in a brownstone on 29th Street. They bought an exclusive assignment for the remaining time on the patent for $300. Their system used red and green lenses like Du Hauron, with the red lens over the right eye. With this patent in hand, they were in a position not only to produce their own 3D books, but to sue anyone else using a similar system for copyright infringement. It all became a moot point as the fad ended and American Stereographic closed up shop. Archer St. John, who published the very first 3D comic book created by Kubert and Norman Maurer, died of a drug overdose on August 13, 1955. William Gaines' company was forced to stop publishing its most popular titles by the newly formed Comics Code Authority. Gaines briefly tried another line called New Directions. When this failed, he took his last remaining comic book and turned it into a black and white magazine. It became one of the greatest publishing successes of the 20th century, Mad Magazine. Joe Kubert went back to making great 2D comics for the next 60 years.